Have you ever felt so defeated in life that giving up seemed like the only option? What if I told you that the secret to overcoming life's toughest challenges lies in the resilience of a tiny ant? Stay tuned as I share a life-changing story of an ordinary man who found extraordinary lessons in the smallest of creatures. Once, a very distressed man approached a saint and said, "I am very unhappy with my life. I cannot even keep my wife, children, and family happy. I am unable to do anything for myself either. Sometimes I even think of ending my life. You practice so much meditation and penance. Can you show me a way to get out of this difficult phase of my life? I am going through a very tough time. It has even become difficult for me to arrange 2 meals a day. Please tell me, how can I survive in such a situation? How can I keep my family happy? I request you to kindly suggest a simple method that I can easily understand, because I am not very educated. If you share profound knowledge, I might not even be able to grasp it." Hearing this, the saint smiled and said, "You can do one thing." Then, pointing ahead, he said, "There is a temple on the hill in front, and near the temple, there is an ant colony where thousands of ants live. It may sound strange to you, but those ants ruin the temple's land. They deplete the soil's fertility, which prevents any trees or grass growing there. Do one task for me, and after that I'll answer your questions. For 7 days, go to that hill every day and destroy the ants' colony near the temple. Whenever you see an ant colony around the temple, demolish it. However, remember that while destroying the colony, not a single ant should be harmed." Trying to understand the situation, the young man walked away. Perhaps he couldn't understand why the saint was making him do this. He felt it was unjust to the ants, destroying their home and causing them harm. After all, what kind of a saint would do such a thing? However, despite his confusion, he began climbing the hill from the very next day, following the saint's instructions. When he reached the hill on the first day, he saw a lot of ants busy gathering food. All the ants were walking in a line, carrying small grains of food and storing them in their home. Seeing this, the young man initially felt disheartened. He thought that these ants were working so hard to fill their home, and if he destroyed it, how terrible it would be for them. But then, recalling the words of the saint, he began to destroy the ants' home. Chaos erupted among the ants. They started running here and there. The ones that were walking in a line scattered and began fleeing in all directions to save themselves. In a short while, the home was destroyed, and all the ants had fled, seeking shelter elsewhere. After doing this, the young man returned home with a heavy heart. He was troubled, sorrowful, and filled with remorse. Then, lying on his bed at night, he thought that the ants' home had already been destroyed. What was the point of going back there? After all, the saint had told him to destroy the ants' home, which he had already done. But after pondering for a while, he decided to go there again the next day. The following morning, he woke up early and went back to the same hill. Reaching the hill, he arrived at the same spot where he had destroyed the ants' home the previous morning. To his surprise, he saw that the ants had rebuilt their home at the same spot and were once again busy gathering materials for their home. Seeing this, the man thought to himself, How foolish these ants are! They know their home was destroyed here just yesterday, and yet they have built it again in the same spot. Thinking this, the man began to laugh. But then, recalling the saint's words, he started to destroy the ants' home once more. The ants scattered in a frenzy, running here and there to save their lives. Within moments, their home was destroyed again. This time, feeling a sense of satisfaction, the man thought, "Now I have completely destroyed their home. They surely won't be able to rebuild it here again." And before leaving, he even poured cold water over the spot to ensure that the ants could not build their home there again. And so, after completing his task, the man returned home. That night, as he lay in bed, he kept wondering whether the saint was truly guiding him to do the right thing. Was it appropriate for a saintly person to destroy someone's home? What if the saint wasn't as enlightened as he seemed? What if he was simply being fooled? However, he decided that he would first complete the task and only then understand why the saint had instructed him to do so. With this thought, he fell asleep. The next morning, he set out again towards the hill. Upon reaching the hill, he went to the same spot where he had destroyed the house and was relieved to find that there was no house of ants anymore. All the ants had left the area. He thought to himself, "What is the point of coming here every day now, since the ants have already moved their home?" The saint had asked him to come here for 7 days, but this was only the 3rd day. He reasoned that there was no benefit in returning for the remaining 4 days. With this decision, he resolved to go directly to the saint and share the entire update with him. When he turned back and started walking towards the saint's hut on the hill, his eyes suddenly fell on another home that had been made by the same ants. And now the ants had moved into this new home. This new home was not far from their old one. When the young man noticed this home, he thought that perhaps the saint knew that the ants would move their home from here to another place. That's why he had told him to come back after 7 days. Thinking this, he headed towards their new home to destroy it as well. When he reached there, he saw the ants deeply engrossed in their work. They were collecting food for themselves and storing it in their home. Even after their old home was destroyed, some grains of food were left behind, and the ants were gathering those grains from there and taking them back to their new home. At this point, the man's determination wavered a little because he himself was weak and felt defeated by time. This is why he began to feel a sense of pity for the ants. He felt compassion for them and wanted to help them, but instead he was causing them harm. However, recalling the words of the saint, he resolved once again to destroy that home. This time, with a great care, he started demolishing the house without causing harm to a single ant. It took a little longer because the saint had specifically instructed not to harm any ants. Therefore, he destroyed the homes with extreme caution. Finally, he managed to demolish that house as well. But after doing so, he was deeply saddened, more than before, because he had destroyed their new home too. He was not letting the ants settle down, and he began to think of himself as a devil or a monster. Yet, despite his sorrow, he followed the saint's words and returned to his home with a heavy heart. Before going to bed at night, he thought again, "How cruel I am! How monstrous I have become! Forget about leaving the old home alone. I am not even letting these ants settle anywhere. What must these ants think of me? What kind of a monster I have become?" Yet, he decided to return the next day. Early the following morning, he reached the same spot again. To his surprise, he found the ants had built a new home in another spot. They were working with even more energy and had created a bigger house overnight. They were now busy gathering their food again. Seeing this, the man wondered, "What are these ants made of? I keep trying to drive them away, but they keep rebuilding their home in the same place. Don't they realize I will never let them stay here? These ants are so small in size, yet they refuse to give up. How astonishing!" This time, in a fit of rage, he started destroying their home again. However, while destroying it, some of the ants were crushed under his feet and died. When his anger subsided and he came back to his senses, he realized the extent of the damage he had caused. Filled with remorse, he walked back to his home crying. While sleeping at night, he thought to himself that he had been causing too much harm to the ants. He couldn't bring himself to harm them any further, and with this thought, he decided the next day to take some grains from his house and bring it to the hill where the ants were. Today, he felt a sense of reverence and compassion for them. He wanted to help them. When he reached the hill, the ants were again busy rebuilding their new home. With great compassion, he fed them the grains he had brought. He continued this for 7 days, visiting every morning. After 7 days, the young man went to the saint, folded his hands, and said, "O saint, please forgive me. I tried very hard to destroy the ants' home. I destroyed it, not once but 4 times. After that, I couldn't bring myself to destroy their home anymore. I understand that I have not completed your task, and in return, you will not give me a way to overcome my difficult times. But I do not mind. I believe that what I did was right. Now I seek your permission to return to my home. Please grant me permission to go back." Hearing this, the saint smiled and said, "Oh, my dear, where are you going? Wait a moment. Have breakfast first. Stay for a little while, then you can leave." Saying this, the saint went to bring water for the young man. After giving him water, the saint asked, "Tell me, why couldn't you destroy the ants' homes? The ants are so small and you are so huge, yet you couldn't destroy their tiny homes. Where is your strength? Where is your might?" In response, the young man said, "Master, I did destroy their home repeatedly. Once in my anger, I even caused harm to them. But the day I caused them harm, I felt, why am I hurting them? Why am I causing them so much pain? And from that day onwards, instead of harming them, I started helping them." Hearing this, the sage said, "This is the very lesson to learn. A tiny ant gives you the message of life. I did not send you to destroy the ants' home. I sent you so that you could learn something from them. What did you learn from those ants? Can you tell me?" Upon hearing this, the young man narrated the entire story. After listening to the full story, the saint smiled and said, "Son, the first lesson you can learn from these ants is this. No matter how many times you tried to destroy their home, they always rebuilt it. They never gave up. If they had given up, you wouldn't have found those ants there. Life is about perseverance. But as humans, we break down and get discouraged after 1 or 2 failures. Then we stop trying in life. Some even become desperate enough to end their own lives. But in animals, you will have always noticed that they never give up on life. Have you ever heard of an animal committing suicide? No matter how hungry or sad they are, they continue to fight for their lives. But on the other hand, as humans, we often end our lives after just a few moments of despair. Life is about action. The essence of life is doing work, and death is the final rest, the ultimate rest. That's why never stop working before death, because after death you will go to eternal rest. So why stop working before that? Why despair? If your house has collapsed, try building another one. Keep trying, because those who try never lose. You can see this in ants. They are so small compared to you, yet their spirit is much bigger than yours, so vast, so determined that despite their homes breaking again and again, they never give up. The second lesson is that whenever bad times come upon us, we feel like it will never end, that it will ruin our lives and prevent us from living. These thoughts, which have no real existence, cause us pain, and that's why we stop trying. But think about it. Nature may harm us repeatedly, but how long will it continue? If we keep rising and trying again and again, nature will eventually bow down to us. One day, it will show us mercy. It will be kind to us, and it will start giving us everything we ever wished for. You saw for yourself that you went to destroy the ants, but later you ended up giving them grain and flour. You became compassionate towards them. Why? Because you saw that those ants never gave up. Similarly, if you never give up in your life, one day nature will give you everything you ever wanted. So friends, remember these life lessons. Keep working with diligence, and one day nature will reward you for your efforts. I hope you have learned a lot from this video. See you in the next video.